Welcome to Algebra 2, Unit 6, Lesson 2, Composition of Functions. After this lesson, you should be able to find the composition of functions. So, what we're going to work on here is this first one. We're going to do a little exploration here. And we're going to find f of 2. So, f of 2 is nothing more. We just take out x in the function and we rewrite it with 2 in parentheses. So 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. So f of 2 is 9. Now what happens if we plug that into g of x? So our output from f, we plug it into g. Well, that's where we would just say, okay, at that point, that would be g of 9. So that would be 9 squared, which is 81. So let's go ahead and do the same thing over here. This little equal sign needs to be fixed. So given f of a is equal to 2a plus 1 and g of a is equal to 3 times 3 to the 3a minus 2, an exponent. So find g of 1. Well, g of 1 is equal to 3 times 3, all right, 3 to the 3 times 1 minus 2. Well, 3 times 1 is 3 minus 2 is 1. So that's equal to 3 to the 1 power, which is just equal to 3. So this would be equal to 3. Now, what do we get if we plug that into f of a? G of 1 goes into f of a. So that would become f of 3, and that's equal to 2 times 3 plus 1, which is 6 plus 1, which is 7. So you can see what we're doing here. We're just plugging in the output into another function. So composition of functions, all right? What is a composition of a function? We would say that this is f of g of x would mean to plug results of g of x into f of x. And as again the notation, I'll repeat this here. So it's f of g of x. Okay, that's where we plug that in. So a real world example of that would be where, let's say, we calculate net pay, right? How do we calculate net pay? Well, we have to first calculate your gross pay, right? So the gross pay, let's say, is f of x, right? So that would be equal to, let's say, your hourly wage times the hours you worked, right? And g of x is, let's say, your taxes. How much do you pay in taxes, right? So that's where you take f of x and plug that into, so we would say f of x gets plugged into the tax rate, right? So multiply the results of that times the tax rate, right? That's a real world example of where we take a calculation and we plug that into another formula to get your net pay, right? All right, so the way we do this is we work from the inside out. All right, so you find the value of what's inside the parentheses for what's the most inner function, and then you plug that into and then results of that go into the outer function. So in this case, we have f of x equals 4x, g of x equals 7 minus x. So first we're going to find g of 4. So it's just 7 minus 4, which is equal to 3. So now you take the results of that, which is 3, and you plug that into f of x. So we now would find f of 3, and that would be equal to 4 times 3, which is equal to 12. So at the end of the day, f of g of 4 is 12. Now, does that necessarily mean that's what you're going to be if you switch these around? And the answer is no. So let's do f of 4. So f of 4 is equal to 4 times 4, which is 16. Now we would find g of 16. So that would be equal to 7 minus 16, which would be equal to negative 9. So g of f of 4 is equal to negative 9. All right, you take a moment here and you solve those two problems, and we'll be back in a moment. All right, let's see what you got, and then let's see what I get, right? So we're going to solve g of 3 first, right? So g of 3 is equal to 3 squared, which is equal to 9. So now we would plug that in, f of 9. So that's 2 times 9 minus 3, which is equal to 18 minus 3, which is equal to 15. So f of g of 3 equals 15. All right, now let's take a look at g of f of 3. All right, so f of 3 is equal to 2 times 3 minus 3, which is 6 minus 3, and that's equal to 3. So now we've got g of 3, which is 3 squared, which is 9. So g of f of 3 is equal to 9. Hopefully you got the same answers. Okay, now we're going to do this without numbers. Okay. This on the right here, okay, what you see here, that is the same as this, right? This is the same here as g of f of x if they use a circle. Okay, it does not mean multiply. Okay, so we're going to take and we're going to multiply, or we're going to plug in g of x into f of x. So how do we do this? Well, you would write f of g of x. You take whatever's in g of x, which would be the square root of x minus 5, and I put that in parentheses, and I say the square root of x minus 5, and I square that, and then I add 5. Now I can simplify this. Whenever I square a square root, whatever under the radical sign is what we get. So we end up with x minus 5. That just we squared a square root, right? And then we're going to add 5. So f of g of x is equal to x minus 5 plus 5 is just x. Okay, so now we've got g of f of x. So we're going to take f of x and plug it into g of x. So this is g of, and we'll use our fancier, right? We'll use what they gave us. G of f of x is equal to, I take the square root and I plug in x squared plus 5 in parentheses minus 5, right? We're going to just clear our parentheses here, right? So I'd end up with x squared plus 5 minus 5. So 5 plus 5 minus 5 is 0, so the square root of x squared. So this becomes g of f of x is equal to the square root of x squared, which is x. Okay. We're going to do this, we'll do this one here. All right, given f of a is equal to 2a plus 5 and g of a equals a squared minus 4, find each value. All right, so we go through the same process here. We're going to plug in g of a into f of a, right? So that would be equal to 2 times a squared minus 4 plus, and then finish it, plus 5. So now we distribute, right? You should remember this by now, right? We distribute, we multiply each thing in the parentheses, right? So this is going to be equal to 2a squared minus 8 plus 5. So f of g of a, whoops, not x, is equal to 2a squared minus 3. Okay, now we're going to end up with g of f of a. So we're going to plug f of a into g. So for a, so I'm going to end up with 2a plus 5 squared minus 4. So this becomes a little bit bigger. If you remember, we got to multiply this out, but we're going to use what we know, which is we're going to square the first term, which is 4a squared, multiply the two terms together, and then double it. 5 times 2a is 10a, times 2 is, that becomes plus 20a, and this is 5 squared plus 25, and then minus 4. So g, oops, why did I make a mess of that there? Let's keep the same notation. G of f of a is equal to 4a squared plus 20a plus 21. Okay, you'll see here the functions that are below. So you're to practice this, and once you're done, you can check your answers on Google Classroom. Have a great day.